1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get punked, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters go. Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing right there on that intro song, and if you want to get that, it is available only for purchase directly from me on a 10-song EP. If you're interested, hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, Cashapp, PayPal, or Zelle me $20. I'm going to get it to you ASAP. If you want to check out more of my music, go to my YouTube playlist, scroll down to gas stations, or just type in 16 The Life gas stations, and you will find a lot of my music there. Now let's hop right up into this video, man. So yeah, you see the title. Are Mexicans mad at BG Knocc for nothing? So lately it has come out and it's floating around on social media that BG Knocc hopped on the stand in 1992 and told on 2 Mexican gang members. So of course, you know, people are saying that he said on a Vlad TV interview that Mexicans are allowed to snitch on blacks. So now with this new information being exposed, of course, you know, some Mexican dudes are having a field day for several reasons. For one, because they believe that BG Knocc said that Mexicans are allowed to snitch on blacks. Also, for 2, he's a gang member, or at one point in time, excuse me. At one point in time, he was a gang member, and also he was a gangster rapper. And so we know, you know, some of the things that gangster rappers say, so on and so forth, right? And so, and let me just say this too, man. This is once again not in defense of BG Knocc, right? It's some interesting things going on, and I'm gonna get to that in my video, man. It is some interesting things going on surrounding this whole this whole scenario, right? And the more I look into things, because I like to be accurate and be well informed about what I'm talking about, the more I look into things, the further and further it takes me down the rabbit hole. And if you guys are familiar with some of my videos, you guys know how I like to do it. I don't like to come out here and just say he said, she said. I like to show you guys information, you know, because to me, I don't I don't understand if an individual gets mad at the truth, then I don't understand that. How can an individual get mad at the truth, right? And so I did and this stuff is easy, public information, easy to find, right? I did some slight looking, and a person who has the exact same name as the rapper BG Knocc testified in a 1993 attempted murder trial against a Mexican known as Alex Herrera. And there was another dude also involved in the case. His last name was Pena. I can't remember his first name right now, right? So, like I said, when this information came out, you had a lot of Mexicans basically clowning and you know, doing all that stuff. And if that is true, rightfully so, right? But I happen to want to research this information, right? Because I remember seeing the video a while ago, and that's not quite what I remember BG Knocc and saying. And so if you happen to, and like I'm saying, this is not in defense of BG Knockout, right? These are just the facts, right? And if anybody has any information to refute that, bring it to me. I definitely like to see it, right? Because an individual, in my opinion, man, who is really interested in the truth and who's seeking the truth doesn't mind being corrected or informed about something that he misinformed people about, right? So to my recollection, I remember him saying that white gang members or white dudes in prison were allowed to snitch on blacks, right? Then he implied a few other things. But anyway, like I said, no need for me to talk about what another man had said when I can show you exactly what was said. So let's hop into that video right now.
See, there's a thing, let me just tell you this. Now, this is something I tried to talk to my homies about, if they remember, right? But like certain gangs or certain races and groups have certain policies. You ever heard the book called The Art of War?
Yeah, Sun Tzu.
Okay, so this is one of the books that, prison gangs and groups read in jail. They study this book and they live by it. Now, the whites in prison have a policy that they can tell on anybody that's not a part of their group. It comes from the art of war. It's pretty much, getting rid of your enemy by any means. And the greatest war fought is one that, the greatest war won is one that you don't have to fight necessarily, right? So they have this thing, and one thing that I do know is that if you at war, at odds with somebody or with an enemy, and you don't fight the war the same way, you're probably not going to win. If you're not willing to go to the same extreme, you're probably not going to win.
And so there, you guys seeing it yourself. So no, he never actually said in the interview that I saw, Mexicans were allowed to snitch on blacks. And so once again, I implore anybody out there with that information to come forward with that information, right? And, to show the video and stuff, because, like I said, I don't want to be wrong about anything, right? And that's one thing that I noticed, right, in this day and age. A lot of people will repeat things that they heard without necessarily doing the homework themselves, because it's easy. I remember one time, man, and I digress a little bit. There was this YouTuber, right? And he was talking about me, not in a negative way. And he said, he was trying to describe me, right? And he said, chill, man, chill. And it sounded like he didn't want to say anything disrespectful. And he said, chill, you know who I'm talking about, man. The dude sounds like he has read a lot of books. And to me, that was very funny and stuff, right? That was, to me, that was funny, but it is true. In this day and age, and always, but especially in this information age, right? I believe that nobody should be misinformed, especially when all the information that we're trying to find out is at the touch of a fingertips in terms of Googling. And then maybe upon Googling whatever you're trying to Google, it can lead you to the right book, because everything that we read on the internet is not true, but maybe it can lead you to the right information to help you acquire the right knowledge that you're trying to seek. Right? So people just repeat stuff that they hear off the internet, right? And real quick, let me digress on one other small thing. And to me, that is the same with the Big U situation. When people are saying Big U said he knocked out 32 Mexicans. So I'm asking anybody to show me that clip where he actually said that, because what I remember seeing is at a time when Whack 100 and Big U were cordial and friends, they were sitting side by side, and Whack 100 was telling the story of Big U knocking out 32 Mexicans. And Big U, he didn't say it. Now, he didn't correct Whack 100 in what I saw, but he didn't correct. So he pretty much let a lie. He pretty much let a lie go on without correcting the information, because had it been me and a person is telling a story about me, any type of story, and he's telling it wrong, I'm going to stop him and correct him, right? But still in all, I can no longer find that interview as well. But at the time, a lot of Mexicans were in an uproar about it. And I'm sure that if he said that, you don't have one, Mexican YouTuber who didn't implement that clip into his video. So like I said, I would also like to see that information, and that's not in Big U's defense. I'm just saying for the fact of stopping rumors from being spread, right? Do I believe Big U knocked out 32 Mexicans in a riot? Hell no, man. That's why I never did even touch that. To me, it was ridiculous, right? Because first and foremost, in a riot, who's counting? You know, unless the riot was videotaped, who in the hell is sitting back watching an individual knock out other individuals and count? That's reason number one, right? Reason number two is 32 is just unbelievable. Now, in my opinion, you might be able to knock out a good 3 people in a riot, right? But when a riot is going off and you squabbing and doing your thing, you know, eventually you can pop, boop, pop, you over there putting people to bed, you are gonna get rushed, right? So maybe 3 people might be believable, maybe 5, right? But now when we get to the number 7, I'm starting to question that, right? Because, you know, you squabbing and you're not just always gonna have the right punch in a riot because there's so much going on to you know, continue to just catch people in the right place where you can knock them out. You know, when you squabbing, anybody that's squabbing, right? And anytime you see something in your peripheral, that's going to take your eyes off your target, right? So you're going to have to glance this way or that way for a hot minute. Then you can be rushed by so many different other people, right? So to me, that was just crazy, right? But I just tripped on how you had so many people reporting and claiming something and getting angry about something that I felt was untruthful and not even the truth anyway, right? But like I said, man, I digress. Now, getting back to this BG knockout thing, man. This thing is getting interesting, right? Like I said, I seen somebody with the same name as BG Knockout in a legal document that's on casemind.com. Casemind.com is somewhat like Pacer, but you know, basically you can go on there and you can research, you know, legal court proceedings and so on and so forth. Because when a person files any type of legal document, an appeal or whatever in a court, it is public. It's public information, right? And so, definitely a person with the same name as BG Knockout did testify in the case. I mean, you know, if it happened, it happened. There's no need trying to sweep things under the rug, pretend it didn't happen. In my opinion, right, that's why the streets are dead, right? Because people play favoritism, right? I don't have no upset, you know, anger about with the man, so on and so forth, right? But people play favoritism, right? I mean, if there's a street code, if there is a rule of conduct, every gang member or every person that's in the street must stick to that rule of conduct. There should be no passes and so on and so forth, right? So, as I said, this stuff is getting interesting because I seen a few channels put up stories in relation to BG testifying, right? I went to check them channels maybe a couple days after I seen them, and a couple of them have took the story down, right? There's a dude, his name is, I believe the name of his page is Slugstown. He's a Paisa, I believe. And he was once locked up in prison over here in California. Now I believe he's back in Mexico, and that's where he does his YouTube channel from. Nevertheless, of course, we all see it. For those of us who are aware of it. But anyway, he put up a story. Then he said that he pretty much got like a cease and desist letter, and so he took it down. But he made a video about getting the letter, right? Then there's another channel. The same guy who was talking about, hey man, it looks like Chill reads a lot of books. He put up a story, and he didn't take his story down, but I happened to go look at his comments, and there is a individual basically leaving what seems like he has copied and pasted some information in relation to reposting or publishing the testimony of a minor, and saying that there is no law in the United States that allows an individual to identify a minor when he has testified in a case, especially if it's violent. So it seems like somebody does not want that case to get out there, right? And then so the dude who left that information in the comments, right? And and that's why I'm not giving the information the names, because you know me, I like to bring you guys the information, right? And so I'm gonna get to that in my next video, right? But the person who copied and pasted this information telling this dude, hey man, you better take this down and so on and so forth. It's very interesting who that dude turns out to be, or at least who because in doing YouTube, man, I know that anybody can put up a YouTube channel and put up a picture and it may not be them, but it's very interesting when I clicked on that page because the person left a comment from their YouTube page. So it's very interesting when I clicked on that page to view that page. It's very interesting who I saw on that page, right? Like I said, man, the more I look into this, and then I got some theories about Vlad, man. It's just, this stuff is getting extremely interesting, right? And I have never been a man, I've always considered myself a realist, right? I've never been a man to believe in conspiracy theories and stuff like that, but this stuff is getting extremely interesting, right? Now, BG Knockout was born in 75. The shooting happened when he was 17. Now, the shooting happened in July of 92, right? When he was 17. The trial took place in early January of 1993, right? So there is some debate about if at the time of the testimony, whoever this person is who has the same name as BG Knockout, BG Knockout has a very unique first name, right? Very, very unique. I never heard it before in my life, or at least never heard the spelling that way, right? I don't necessarily know the correct pronunciation, but so whoever that person was with the same name as BG Knockout testified. It just says this dude was convicted in January. So possibly at the time of the conviction, BG Knockout, whether he testified or not, was 18, right? So I don't even know if this guy who's copying and pasting this information saying you can't repost and identify a minor, I don't even know, I don't even know if he has an argument to stand on, because it doesn't say clearly when exactly the trial was. It just says in 93, right? Well, no, it says in 93. Yeah, it says in the trial in 93, but BG Knockout turned 18 in January, right? So like I said, man, I have no animosity towards BG Knockout, don't even know the man or whatever, right? I'm just finding all this interesting, and I'm sharing it with individuals who may find it interesting. What I also find interesting is for some of us who has participated in the street, man, the game goes one way. It don't go no 2 or 3 different ways. It's only one recipe, right? And a lot of people try to add their own mix and sauce to the recipe, and that's when the recipe gets messed up. The game goes how it goes, man. It's no making exceptions, no giving certain individuals allowances or whatever because they're your homeboy, they're your friend, whatever, right? And like I say, man, I'm gonna bring you guys some interesting stuff, man, interviews and stuff like that. And it's just, to me, it's this stuff is deep, right? But I got a little bit off track. So I was saying that knowing that the shooting happened in July 1982, in July 1992, right? That's when the shooting happened. So, and me, I did some research on the information. At the time, BG was 17, but he's turning 18 in January of the following year, 93, right? So I'm knowing, right, that an individual charged with attempted murder, whatever, most individuals sit in the county jail fighting those charges at least a year or two because the time is so severe. And so why I said a year or two, because if he sat in the county a year or two, then even though BG Knockout was 17 at the time that he was shot, at the time of his testimony, if he did testify, he was 18. So I don't know how, I'm no legal beagle. I don't know how that really works, but it's interesting, right? And this is the last thing I want to say before I end this video. I know it's been a little long-winded, right? My mindset today in terms of gang banging and people gang banging is very different than how it was many, many years ago. I don't know for you guys who have been keeping up watching my channel. I told a story about getting into a riot in the county jail with the Pisces, and I said I forget exactly what I said, but I said an S snitched on me. Now, S was a dude who I had met in the county jail. I told him about what I was in there for. He wrote a letter to the DA and ended up coming to trial testifying against me because he was facing a lot of time. I didn't call him S because S was for snitch. S was the initial for his name, what he was going by, right? So I say all that to say, in that video, I never even exposed who that dude was, right? Because I understand that I played a huge part in all this in terms of people telling on me and this and that because I chose to get in that life, right? So I was really just, and I really was just, and still am, was just happy and grateful to have a chance to get back out, right? So I'm not just to hold anger, be upset about people who didn't told on me because, you know, if an individual told on me and I get upset, it's because this dude didn't live up to my expectations, right? But I understand now today that people do not live up to people's expectations, right? So that's why I have no problem with all these dudes who, you know, have went SNY and went there. I mean, the reality of the fact of the matter is, people go SNY. People snitch. You know what I'm saying? So if I get caught up on a person, you know, living his life according to my standards, I'm going to stay angry, right? So I have no problem with BG Knockout or none of these dudes, right? I'm just bringing you guys a story, what I believe you guys would be interested in, right? And so once again, I've digressed a little bit, but like I said, I no longer think like I did back, you know, when I was out there in the field and doing this and that. And I don't, you know, sometimes you will see a story, right, where an individual may be rapping now. What was the dude's name? Pop Hunter or whatever his name was. He, you know, he had a little hit record, My Corvette or something like that, right? Then they come to find out he had witnessed a murder or a shooting somewhere. Pop Hunter, he had witnessed a murder or a shooting when he was 13 or 14 and his mama took him down to the police station and he told, or maybe he was 11 or 12. But anyway, dude stopped. They ostracized that dude and disassociated themselves from that dude. I do not believe, man, that no dude, no 9, 10, 11 years old, 13, 14 years old. I do not believe that dude has the mental capacity to withstand the verbal barrage that the police is gonna give this dude, man, if he gets caught up on a case, and he should not be held to the same standards as an older gang member. Now, would I trust in an individual who told back when he was 13 or 14? No, man, get away from me. You don't have the right, in my opinion, to gangbang and hang out, but I'm not going to be upset with you for doing what you've done right now. So, but I do say this, at the age of 17, you are still not no adult. You know, there's no 17-year-old in the world, in my mind, who can mentally match wits with me when it comes to this street stuff, so on and so forth, or whatever, right? You know, just growing up, maturing and understanding and knowing what I know now about life and about the brain and all that stuff, you know. But 17 is old enough for a gang member to hold his mud. If, you know, you can be 17 and advanced enough to shut your mouth when you get caught up in a situation, right? And so, you know, I got caught up in a situation at the age of 17. I slapped the owner of a store in the head with a baseball bat. You know, police came and got me. I was facing some serious charges, right? I had nothing to say. So I know dudes who have caught murders at the age of 17 and stood 10 toes down, right? And so, you know, to me, that is old enough. A person could be seasoned enough at the age of 17 to be quiet about a situation. I mean, you know, a person could be well aware of his duties as a gang member, is what I'm trying to say, at 17, and, you know, stick to the code, right? So 17 is much older than 14. But in my opinion, what I know now, it's still not, you know, at 17, man, if you send a 17-year-old into prison with a bunch of grown men, he is not going to be able to hold his own, right? He's just not, he has not had enough life experiences at that young age. But in my opinion, once again, 17 is still old enough for a person to understand the tenets of gangbanging, basically in relation to not speaking to the police, man. But like I said, man, this stuff is getting interesting. And, you know, my next video, I'm going to try to get to it and show you guys, you know, some things that I found and discovered. And to me, it's very interesting, man. But anyway, listen. Like I said, man, if anybody happens to have that video with Big U himself saying he knocked out 32 Southsiders, show it to me, because in the time that he made it, if Big U himself actually said it, there isn't any Mexican YouTubers who have possibly, like I said, inserted that clip into their video. So I believe, like I said, he sat back and he let Wax say it and didn't correct him. But and it's not in defense of Big U. All I'm trying to say is at times people will run with narratives they have heard other people say without clearly checking into it themselves and getting the truth, man. The truth is always best, whether you like it or love it. Anyway, man, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.